Thanks very much. Oh my God, I tell you what, it gives me pride to be Irish again looking at this crowd, and they're still coming. I'm an activist from Fingal, basically Rush Skerries, against water meters, and we're in with Bob Briggan, we're in with Swords. They are the ones who should be locked up. The Gardaí think they can scare us. They think they can lock 23 people away for sitting in front of a car in Jobestown. I don't think so. But there's no way in hell they can put them people behind bars. The ones that have failed us are the government. And if they were doing a good job, we wouldn't be sitting in front of that car. I personally will not rest until Irish water is totally abolished. Water charges are a thing of the past. We already pay for our water, we've always paid for our water, and we won't pay twice. I too have been affected by general austerity. It's getting a bit personal now. My ex-partner had to move out of our house when we were together at a family home, and the landlord moved back in, and I felt like a useless man because my 2 kids and her own daughter, they were homeless. We weren't together anymore, but they were homeless. But I felt terrible. It wasn't my fault. I thought it was, but it wasn't my fault. It was this government's fault. Everybody has a right to housing. We shouldn't have homelessness in this country. And we won't rest until we get rid of this government, until Joan, Borton and co. never step foot in Leinster House again. Who streets? Who streets? Who streets? Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks very much, Joan. We're moving through the speakers fairly quickly because we have got quite a few, and some more music, some more videos. So welcome on stage our independent TD from the south inner city of Dublin, one of the most deprived areas of the country, but one of the greatest fighting back areas of the country. Joan, you're very welcome on stage. Joan Collins, TD.
It is absolutely fantastic to be standing here today with thousands upon thousands of people who've come out to follow up the 57% non-payment. This was sorely needed. We needed to put the fire back into our bellies to take on this government and absolutely defeat these water charges. There are certain people who thought you might have gone away. They honestly thought that this is all finished. But you have proven today that we're not gone away. Are we gone away? Are we going to come back? This is what is needed. They would love to have seen us gone away, and I know it's not going to happen. These are the people who don't understand what it's all about. They just don't get it. They don't get the fact that we're paying doubly for water. They don't get the fact that we're opposed to privatisation. They don't get the fact that after 7 years of austerity, of cuts, taxes, cuts in our wages, everything that's happened to us, they do not understand it. So no way! No way! This is more about, an undemocratic Europe. We've seen what happened to the people in Greece when they stood up to the IMF and the Troika. And that's what they're trying to do, is bully people, bully the European people into subjugation. We won't accept that, and we will make sure that in the next general election that is only around the corner, that we will put in progressive politicians who stands accountable with the people, for the people. James Connolly said, the weak only appear weak because we are on our knees. Arise. What I'm saying today, the weak only appear weak when we were on our knees. We are a risen people. We will not go back. We are here to stay, and we're going to fight our way. In relation to this, I finish on this point. I would like to congratulate the Right2Water unions for both the Congress of Trade Unions, the belly of the Congress of Trade Unions conference, and make the case to support the Right2Water campaign and against privatisation. And they won. And my union, the CWU, have called on all other unions to stand with the Right2Water, to come out onto the streets and support one another in solidarity. And I think that everybody that's in a union, in all unions, sift to the whole lot, should be going back to their forums and saying, we need you out there. We need to be standing with the communities and with the people and the politicians who are accountable to them. So here we go. We're here to stay and we're not going away. Okay?
Thanks, Joan. Okay, Brendan has had to pop off for a second, so I'm going to introduce the next speaker. But before I do, can I ask you a quick question? Is this only about water? No! Alright then, I want to tell you a quick story. A few years ago, my grandfather was brought into hospital. He spent 2 days on a trolley waiting to be seen. They thought he had lung infection, but it turned out to be lung cancer. 2 weeks later, he was dead. 80 years of age, waiting 2 days on a trolley in an A&E in Dublin, waiting to be seen. A year later, his wife, my grandmother, was brought into hospital. And when she was in hospital in a ward, she died at 5 o'clock in the morning with the nurses telling us to not disturb the 8 other people who were in the ward with her. That's the type of society the people in Leinster House have created for us, and it's not good enough. These people contributed to this society in so many ways. And there's so many of them. I say this story not because they're unique, but the problem is that it is all over the place. Every one of you have a story like that, and that's why our society is failing. They deserve better. Jonathan Corey, homeless person who died on the streets of our parliament, he deserved better. The 3 children who slept on a park bench on Mountjoy Square last week, they deserve better. The 1,100 children who are in emergency accommodation, they deserve better. The 600 people waiting on trolleys in hospitals all over this country, they deserve better. We all deserve better. The family who are evicted in Kells during the week, they deserve better. That's why the Right2Water unions have facilitated a consultation process with all of you, with the political parties, with the community groups, and with trade unionists across this country, because we believe you all have a right to health, you have a right to education, you have a right to a home, you have a right to democratic reform, but they are determined not to give that to you. We believe you have a right to change this country. We have a right to change the country from a country based on corruption, cronyism, speculation, profit and greed, to one that's based on equality, social justice, democracy and respect. But it won't happen on its own. We're going to have to fight for it. And we're going to have to fight hard, because the forces against us are very, very strong. They're going to tell all of us that there's no alternative, that this is the only way. But there's always an alternative, and there's always a choice. Our government are making choices all the time. They made a choice in the last budget to give the top 20% of earners a tax cut worth 400 million euros. And then they tell all of us to pay water charges. They gave a tax cut to 3 companies worth 50 million, and then they cut social welfare for young people, inviting them to emigrate out of this country. We have lost 300,000 people since this government came into power. 300,000 people have emigrated. Now there's something fundamentally wrong with a society that's more concerned about the flight of capital than it is about the flight of its own children. Imagine, we have a government over there who wants to bring in a policy that's going to make lone parents concerned about whether they have to tell their children not to flush the toilet again because they can't afford the next bill. We have a government that's happy about bringing in a policy where pensioners have to wonder whether they can take a second bath during the week. Those policies are wrong, and we need to change this government, and we need to change the priorities for our society. I believe all of you people out there have a right to health, a right to education, a right to housing. The question is, do you believe you have that right? And If that answer is yes, then I'm asking you. We're going on a tour around this country to every major town and city. And we're going to bring these policies to you through this document. Policy Principles for a Progressive Irish Government. And let's have a real discussion about the policies that we do want. Not the ones that they're telling us that we want. The policies that you on the ground want. Let's have that discussion. Let's talk about the policies. Let's unite around the policies that we want. And then let's figure out a way to have those policies implemented. Because look around you guys. This is our potential. This is what we can do. Together, if we stand united, we can change this country. So let's see us all in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to invite the next speaker now who can put my words much better than I can and say his own words because I'm much more eloquent. I'm going to invite, some of you might remember, Stephen Murphy performed